Kia ora everyone, I'm still obsessing over Andor and I decided to cave early, and so I bought this newly released LEGO set a lot earlier than I usually do. This here is set 75399, the Rebel U-wing Starfighter, which released at the beginning of May 2025 as a tie-in release set for Andor Season 2. The set here contains 594 pieces in total, with 4 minifigures, all of which are at this stage exclusive, though I believe K2SO will be a figure that is re-released later on in the year. This set here retails for $70 USD before tax. Here in NZD we pay about $130 for this thing. Now I got this on sale for about 23% off as early as just 19 days after its release in this country, so I paid $100 NZD for this thing in total. And I would like to clear the air and say that I am in the very privileged position where I earn revenue from all of you watching, which is how I'm able to afford most of my LEGO sets. So yes, right off the heels of finishing one of my new favorite shows of all time comes a U-wing remake, which was a set that I missed at the original release back in 2016, so this felt like it was basically made for me. Now timing wise, I could not have fumbled this more, because actually I was able to find the original 2016 U-wing, which was meant to be covered here on this channel before I covered this new one. So we're gonna jump ahead by about a week or so just so we can get the brand new one out of the way, and we'll cover that older set at another time. If I open the set up and remove our contents from inside, we have an instruction booklet, and we've got about 6 total numbered bags here. Yet again we're using plastic bags years after LEGO promised the paper bags initiative. This here is our set all complete, and I must say, as someone who has now had the luxury of building the 2016 release U-wing, it's a pretty rough comparison. I think this took me maybe about an hour total of build time. Now on its own, I like it quite a bit. I think it's a really great alternative for those like me circa 2 weeks ago who missed out on the original 2016 release, but for those long-time consumers and collectors, it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. I think we're all aware that LEGO did change the scale for their minifig based playsets of ships from around 2020-ish. Sets were now getting smaller and quote cheaper due to that scale and the parts usage, but nowadays it seems like LEGO have lost on that initiative since the prices continue to rise almost to match the old prices from a decade ago, but we're receiving smaller products. The set here is based on a ship that I have adored from the modern Disney era of Star Wars, and the original was a set that I share deep regrets on missing. Ultimately, they still nail the basic shaping and design here. The only issues one would have would be if you were to compare it to the previous model, but again, if you don't know what you missed out on, you likely won't be that bothered. But I do really love comparing to older models these days, especially when we've had 2 releases within the past decade. LEGO have been remaking a couple of sets in the smaller scale now, but there's a couple of really noticeable differences here that I will be sure to highlight closer to the end of this video. Now full disclosure though, the secondhand seller lied to me. They claimed that the set here would be in excellent condition, and as you can see, the white bricks there are stained with yellow from sun damage. I apologize for the use of this set throughout the video, but it is something that I am trying to sort out with them. And currently, as of May 19, they've actually ghosted me, so we'll see if I'm successful in getting that fixed. So let's talk about some highlights of the set there and the build methods, which actually do differ from the 2016 release. This set you build from the bottom to top and you build upwards. It's very different from the original, which has you start at the wings body section of the build, and you even build some of those segments upside down. We have a total of about 6 stickers in the set in total, very simple stuff as well. You've got a yellow mark there at the front and these 2 blue designs for the sides there. They've been placed on some CMF series stands. The bulk of the build comes from the body section, which contains a small compartment for the passengers and or cargo. This is the segment that I was saying you build and apply upside down in that original model. We're right by the engines here, which are mostly comprised of the same build. There's some slight variations for the side paneling and the inner connections, but this time they are all brick built with no extra sticker details. The U-wing has a really great feature of a little switch there at the back. Pressing it actually pops up the canopy of the cockpit, which makes it much easier to access inside. I really appreciate that because I personally struggled to open this thing without that lever back there. The cockpit features a small bed-like area for our pilot and some very cool control panels there for flying. This idea of our pilots laying down I think has appeared more regularly in some sets these days, which does seem a little goofy rather than just sitting. I will say though that 2 people are meant to fit in this area, so it's a shame to see that LEGO still have not been able to pull that off. Now staying at that front section, it features a massive button build which activates the spring-fired missiles here at the front of the ship. It's a very cool feature to me because both missiles are fired at the same time. I think some may find that annoying, but I personally loved it. It's the first time in a long time I've felt like the flick-fire missiles had some real kick in their style. As far as those engine builds go, I've seen a lot of criticism online about these things, but I don't mind them. It's a very weird shape to pull off in toy form anyway, and I do think these do a pretty good job, connected by Technic pegs there, and removing them shows the pairing. The previous model's engines were really sturdy and well connected into that set. Now, something I noticed with the blue disc used for the blue stripe is that in universe, the blue is more closer to the edge rather than how the set has it here, but by the way that the set is built, I feel like you could just move the disc yourself. Just a little odd that it's not already like that, I guess is where I'm getting at here. It's very easy to connect onto the ship. The back features the cargo door, and this is something that bothered me even with the original set as well. It's just a display door that doesn't lead to anywhere. It's strange, but I know fans are going to complain otherwise if it's not featured. But now it's time to take a look at that cargo hold area. This is where you're able to store some of your figures or some cargo or whatever you like. The ship is equal parts a starfighter and a transport ship, of course. The color scheme is very different to the original one. It's a lighter bluish grey compared to that dark grey tone, and I like them both equally. We have a window section there which allows you to look inside the set based on however you hold this thing. We also have some glass windows on the opening doors there, and some more of that yellow colouring there to match the rest of the ship. The doors open here like so, which is unfortunately a pretty big change from source material and the previous set. The doors are meant to open off to the side. It just means that the rescaled size here required a change in the functionality, and I think that's a shame. It's an easy thing to move on from though. What's not an easy thing to accept is just how small this interior space is. This is where the scale change really starts to show. We have enough room in here for about one minifigure. The previous one had the ability to fit 4 minifigures standing. That is a huge downgrade in my mind. And while not necessarily recommended, I was able to get K2SO in there and balance him against that cargo loot there, and he just barely fits. Of course, he's not going to stay in place like this, but maybe I could build something for his legs to connect onto and keep him there. Now, as for the main feature of the wings there, when entering flight mode, the ship changes form into a V-like formation. The set achieves this through a swing wing gimmick. You can see here that we have a ball joint on the wing and a plate with a socket near the engines. Very easy to open up and connect, feels really natural and fun to play with, even if the display looks rather strange, but that's just me. I've always just enjoyed the aesthetics of the landing mode versus the flight mode. They lock into place at the back of the ship there, and the same mechanic is used for the front end of the ship in order to lock it back into place for landing. This ultimately feels smoother to me versus the original. I think the size and scale just has it feeling a bit more compact and manageable. It's very cool stuff overall. But speaking of the original, it's time for some really hefty comparisons. I want to try and keep this brief because I do want to cover that 2016 set myself sometime soon, but this is the best time to compare the set since the original was original, and this is for all intents and purposes a remake. Now, scale wise, these are very tricky things to cover. The size is crazy for both of them because they both feature some very long lengthy segments that extend way beyond their shelf space. You can see a clear difference in the design for the main body right away. Take note of the fact that the wings on the new one feature minifigure display stands for the main design of the wing, whereas the original one uses full-on plates big enough to have a much bigger sticker design with more detail. Our front end with the Fire missiles for the remake here uses these Speed Champions corner-like parts to get that shaping here for the front, whereas the original one there is using these massive shell-like parts, and the missiles here are individual elements, free to fire one at a time. The main body here shows a great change in its color scheme, some sticker designs, and it's a lot wider on the original one with that window section extending out towards the missiles there. The biggest change I see is the opening door, which slides open there versus the remake, and you can faintly see in there that I have a bunch of minifigures standing, not sitting. The engine design is very interesting. I think both do a pretty good job here in different areas for their individual styles. I think the main section here is a bit more impressive to me compared to how simple the section is on the original, but I like the original's back section of the engine with the grey elements versus the newer one, which is a bit too simple in comparison. But it's interesting to see that with all of these size changes, the canopy piece remains the same, it just features some new printing that's still rather similar. Now we have some huge differences with the wings here though, very cool stuff to get into. You can see here the socket pieces and ball joints are the exact same parts reused for the newer model, but you'll also notice the tiles and teeth-like structure on the older model there. It's got these extruding elements, and the inner build of the ship here features some gaps in the wing. These parts enter those gaps for a more secure connection when displayed, and also the wings on the older model use a combination of 3 hinge clips there, whereas the new one uses a combination of simply 2. Those are the simple changes that I noticed immediately while building, and I'm sure there's some great in-depth videos out there covering more crazy details. I just felt like I wanted to quickly address some of the big changes that I noticed. The minifigures here are the shining inclusion, pretty decent overall and a good solid selection. Some of the quality assurance is a bit out of control here, so let's get into it. We start out with Cassian Andor himself, who has now received his 4th official minifigure, so he is well and truly in the weeds of important Star Wars protagonists. Ahsoka, for example, only has 3 additional figures in comparison. This is him as featured in his Season 2 outfit, or one of them at least. He features his Yavin jacket, though I will be honest, I can't recall when he wore this exact style. He wears his undershirt a few times in the series, and the jacket too, but I don't remember when we saw him in this exact style. Still, I like the figure a lot. I think it might be a step down from the previous Andor figures, but I like the close symmetry it has to bridging the gap between the show and the movie. A double-sided face there with a very slight smile for this guy, very cool stuff overall. This is him compared to the previous figure, which I absolutely adore. The hair is different since this new series again leads us into the movie, and that's the movie hairpiece they used in 2016. The facial hair is a big change too, and his overall style. You haven't seemed to really change the guy. This hair is Cassian compared to the Rogue One variant of himself from 2016, and thank God LEGO fixed that flesh tone. I always hated this really weird whitewashing thing that LEGO did sometimes to their figures for seemingly no reason, and they too obviously think it's an issue, otherwise they wouldn't have changed it here, because you'll also notice that the face print is practically the exact same. It's a little updated for its style, that's all. Also worth noting here, because I did see others mention this too, this set gave me 2 hair pieces and it doesn't mention anything about it in the instruction manual. It's a very simple piece included in tons of sets in the past, but it's really cool for me in my collection to have a freebie that I don't have to steal from another minifigure. This here is K2SO, who I think will be the standout selling figure for a lot of people. This guy is great, and you could probably guess, but I missed the original one from 2016, and that figure's value is currently between $60 to $70 NZD, so if you look at it that way, he makes up about half the value of the set. Actually, it's interesting, the new one's already been priced at around $20 to $30, and while we're on that subject, in fact, all of them feature surprisingly high prices, all things considered. You're looking at about $88 in NZD for just the figures alone, and again, I paid $100 for the entire set. Now he's actually different compared to the original K2SO figure. That figure features some minor battle damage printing to show that he's really been through it when we first meet him in Rogue One. I think it's really cool to have a clean version of this droid, which only became more popular and prominent in Star Wars media through uses of like the EA and Respawn Jedi games, so I'm sure mock builders will be very pleased about that. A very cool, unique minifigure. Unfortunately, as far as the weaker inclusions go, this here is Dedra Meero, who is an amazing character in show, and she will pair brilliantly with the Cyril figure from the previous Andor series set. Dedra's best feature easily involves her torso printing and that hair hat combo piece, which is a great part to have in LEGO because usually we just have that ISB hat piece on its own. She also includes a double-sided expression, which is how I figured out that this piece was brand new for this set. LEGO making an exclusive face print for female characters is a really great selling point for me in this set, because they have had a tendency in the past to just reuse female face prints for smaller base characters like Dedra here. The weak spots come with that leg printing. It's not a dual molded release, instead LEGO have printed the white style of the jacket onto the black legs, which is something that LEGO just cannot do, yet they continue to do so. It's low quality through and through. I'm told on camera here it doesn't look as bad, but I still feel like you can tell that there is a clear difference from torso to leg print. Now the reason it's always infuriated me is because LEGO are lying to you on their packaging intentionally. They've photoshopped her legs here in all of the material to be the correct color to try and sell you on a false product. My line in the sand here is that while I prefer this over a bad face print, and I think LEGO know that about some of us consumers, so here they are, repeating that process. It's a shame too, because I do really love that character. And then here we have an ISB Tactical Agent minifigure. This is an unnamed character inclusion, but a very cool one that I did not expect to love nearly as much as I do. These guys appear in the last couple of episodes of the show, so it's a rather insane inclusion if you haven't seen the show yet. Complete with a blaster and a shield piece, and the hat is included here without the hairpiece attached. Some very cool unique printing for the torso and legs that are exclusive to the set, which makes sense as to why he too has been priced so highly. It's a shame that he uses a repeat face, but for an unnamed character, I'm okay with that type of an inclusion. A very good use for the extra hairpiece we received in the set if you want to have him just relaxing before he encounters K2SO. The instructions here are your simple medium-sized booklet. There's no theming on the front or inside the pages, and the steps here are easy to follow as always. At the back we see instructions for how the missiles work, how the wings clip into place, and then we see the set all complete here on our next page. Flipping us over, it features some of the 2025 bestsellers for LEGO Star Wars. We have here an entire range of downsized, incredibly expensive releases in one of the roughest waves that I've seen yet. We're then followed by the inventory list and then the winning robot at the back. Overall, this is a very decent rescale that impressed me once I had this thing fully built. The original today, due to inflation, would be around $196 NZD, assume that LEGO would round that up to $200. That set contains 659 pieces in total, which is just 65 more pieces than this one, which is crazy to me to say out loud, so comparatively, it's an extra $60 for 65 pieces. The scale is greater, and well, I actually paid 150 NZD in 2025 money for this original U-wing, so cheaper through and through for me personally, but it's not about what my experience was. Also, my set's been plagued with discolored bricks anyway, so I think I should have paid less. As I mentioned at the start, I think as it stands, this remake is a decent alternative for those who missed out on the 2016 release. I don't think it's an improvement in comparison, just because I prefer the older scale of sets rather than what LEGO's done in the 2020s. It's just a nice option for those who would rather go out and get something brand new and available now in stores, which is always going to be easier than trying to find a good quality condition set through the aftermarket space. And I think I'm proof of that. I do hope the set does well, because I really hope it leads to more Rogue One and Andor based sets, because 2 playsets for 2 seasons of television is not enough for this fan over here. Thanks for watching everyone. Liking and subscribing to the channel here does help to support more videos like this one in the future. Ka kite anō, take care, see you all next time.